Thank you for joining for a very special at-home edition with Janelle Morrison, MADD Media Solutions. I'm here with the one and only Blair Clark, live from Carmel, Indiana, from what, your studio, your living room? Where are you?
My office.
Your office. Okay. And first of all, you look great, Blair. I mean, COVID looks good on you. The quarantine looks good on you.
Thank you.
Um, how have you been? I mean, let's kind of talk first and foremost. You've been locked down just like the rest of us, and I'm sure you've got students. You're not just like a musician, singer. You're a voice coach. How is that working out for you?
Well, I'm doing a lot right here in my office. I'm Skyping a lot of my students. I have about 51 students, but I have maybe a half of that, maybe a little less that are on hold because they want to come in. The Skyping, streaming, FaceTiming, and everything works fine. A lot of my students are getting a lot out of it, but I do have those students that really want to come in. They're more performance oriented, and
Sure.
vocal and performance coach, it's a little easier to work with them on facial expressions and hand gestures and
Right.
the physicality. And you've been in the studio with me working with Taylor Beckett, so you kind of see how there is more of a direct approach to positioning and performing and blocking and things like that. So,
Sure.
it's a little slow because of that, but because I have enough students that are still Skyping with me, I'm keeping things moving. But it's a different different energy right now for everybody. For everybody.
It's a different world. I mean, we're all adjusting, and I think at the most part, people have been adapting and ingenuity. Right now, this is where we start to see people get really creative with their space, with technology, with what they do, especially if you're an artist, whether you're a singer-songwriter, performer, writer, whatever, painter. I mean, I think this is the time where we start to see a lot of creativity.
Yeah.
And not to be irreverent to COVID-19 and people's struggles. Certainly, I've had friends that have gone through ICU, luckily have survived their ordeals. I'm sure you know plenty of people that have been affected by this in one way, shape, or form, whether they're businesses that are going through this, restaurants. I mean, we could go on and on about that and have an entire segment dedicated to that.
Yeah.
But really, what I want to focus on is this creativity piece of it. And again, there's the human side to this.
Mhm.
To every disaster, to every tragedy, there's a human cost. And that's been weighing on you a little bit. And you've been thinking with your latest release of the new album that's coming up, In a Perfect World. So that is your newest album. This is certainly not your first time in the rodeo. And
Right.
for fans of yours and people who know you, we know what kind of music you put out there. So we're very excited about this. We're going to talk about that album release. But in this album is a song that you're working on, and you can share with me a little bit about it. And it's called Here in Spirit. So, kind of share with me the genesis of that. What is it about this song and what's going on right now with COVID, with families that are suffering from it? Again, whether you're the person who has it or if you are the family that is afflicted and as a result of this, kind of share with me what Here in Spirit is about and how this is really affecting you, the artist.
Right. Well, it was really interesting, Janelle, because I had gotten a chance to work with Evelyn Champagne King a few years ago on Here in Spirit. Co-wrote it with Preston Glass, who wrote Who Zoom and Who and System of Survival. He worked with wrote a lot of songs for Aretha Franklin and Earth, Wind, and
Right.
but when we first wrote the song, Preston and I wrote the song. We were writing it about family members who had passed on, and we're no longer there to touch them, to see them, to spend time with them, but they're here in spirit. They're in our hearts. They're here in spirit. And so fast forward to now, where we have, I'm talking, I'm sure you are talking to a lot of our friends and loved ones and clients who have family members who end up in the hospital with this COVID. And as soon as they're admitted into the hospital, family members can no longer go in and see them.
Right.
They are literally separated from them for the duration of the time, and hopefully it's not fatal, but for the duration of the time that they're in the hospital, family members can't connect with them. And you probably heard uh, Cuomo mention it when he got it from CNN. But it's you're isolate. You isolate. You either isolate in the house or you isolate in the hospital. But this really goes out. This song is really about family members and loved ones who are not able to connect and be there with their family members and their loved ones at a time when they need them most to give them comfort, um, at a time when they're just sick, and don't know what the outcome is going to be. So it's about being about keeping that memory and that time with them in spirit, being here in spirit, and letting that sustain you. Because at the end of the day, what sustains us when we lose a family member or when we're absent from a family member, especially in a critical moment, is, what sustains us is the memory and the time that we have spent with them, and that they're here with us in spirit. And that's what keeps us going from day to day a lot of times.
Sure. And do you find, I mean, I just, again, talking, a lot of my friends, I have such incredible friends, such as yourself, just creative types, that are finding right now using this time in this lockdown time, or as we start, some people will start to be able to go out and maintain or resume a new normal life. That's the new buzzword, right? New normal.
Right.
But what are you finding right now, just there within your home, your studio, as far as, is this the best time to find creative outlets and for people to kind of just dig down and say, you know what, I've got some extra time on my hands I didn't have 2 months ago,
Yeah.
and I feel inspired to write? I mean, does it make it easier for you? Is it more challenging? Kind of share with me a little bit about what this particular writing process has been like for you while in lockdown.
Yes. I think it definitely opens up some portals, of that are usually closed off to things that we have to do during the day, spiriting kids back and forth to school, running all over the place, soccer, this and all of those different activities and things going on. You have to really find a specific time to chisel out to create. Now with this, we're sitting around with what to do with our time, and a lot of times that's when, okay, a good example is you sit down and you start writing your feelings, your thoughts, your emotions down. Or in my case, you reach back to some things that you had done a long time ago and you put it on the shelf and you dusted it off and said, I'm going to get back to you, eventually. And you never do because you get busy with life and things go on. Well, I, I got a chance to do, I don't know if you remember Pinkerton Bowden.
I do not.
Well, Pinkerton Bowden, Richard Bowden and Sandy Pinkerton Bowden, they were on the Bob and Tom show a lot. Well,
Okay.
I was playing at the Holiday Inn, a club called Bananas, and Richard
Yeah.
Bowden walks in, and he was on the road getting ready to do a Bob and Tom show. He comes in the door and he heard me singing "You Are Always on My Mind," and he was a deep voice. He says, "Have you ever thought about doing country?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I kind of had." Well, it just so happens that he was he's best friends with Don Henley, and he's also
Okay.
best friends with Jim Ed Norman, president of Warner Brother Records. So we ended up producing 4 songs for Capitol Records and for Warner Brother Records, in Nashville. Well, I wrote these. I did a cover of Skip Ewing's "Please Don't Leave Me Now" and a song original called "Kicking Up Dust." Well, I hadn't done anything with those songs for years, so I thought, well, you know what? I want to release, "Please Don't Leave Me Now," and then I want to release "Kicking Up Dust." Well, I did a re-release on "Here in Spirit." I mean, in a Perfect World, and the same thing. So sometimes it's not just creating, but it's recreating, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word, and just starting to do. You begin to start thinking, okay, I've got time to start focusing some of my attention on my art. And so yeah, and interestingly enough, Janelle, um, I started working with one of my students. She's a senior, and she was in show choir. getting ready, bought a prom dress, was all ready for the prom, and they,
Mm,
competing in Zionsville Show Choir. They were just
sure.
phenomenal job. Well, everything went to a complete halt. Well,
Right.
one of the artists that I book when I book for the City of Carmel, but she's also a phenomenal guitar player and singer, and I booked her in some other places. Well, we're doing Skype sessions, and we decided to co-write a song called "The Lost Senior Year," and she's going to write it. She's putting down lyrics, and we're collaborating on that, um, and collaborating with one of my other artists. Before this word came out, New Normal, we started writing a song called New Normal. So
Perfect.
and this is interesting. As a coach, I'm seeing that my students, before they were, "Oh, well, I've got to get ready for this solo, or I've got to get ready for this lead in the play, or this show choir, or whatever." And now they're focusing their attention more on honing their skills as artists, writing new songs, learning how to write, getting creative, pulling out their ukulele and learning chords. So really, it's kind of interesting because now they're even finding more time to be more creative and artistic, as opposed to just, you know, labor intensive working toward a solo or getting a spot in a musical.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. And you bring up a good point about the students and just, first of all, I'm finding just with my teenagers at home, they are more resilient than most adults that I know. And so I'm learning a lot from them, as I imagine you're probably learning a lot from your students right now, and
Am I?
just kind of how to dial it down a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm inspired by the young people because they remind me that this too shall pass, and out of it, some pretty great things are happening. In addition to all the wonderful deeds that are happening, we're going to see some incredible, hopefully some great novels and music and productions that come out of this.
Right.
I think that's just what we as humans do. That's how we heal. Music heals.
Yes.
So, what do you hope to achieve with the album itself? I know we had talked prior to the interview that you would like to get the single out here in spirit. I know you're going to be working on a video for that here pretty soon. Kind
Mhm.
of share a little bit. Don't give away everything, but share a little bit about what you would like to see, what that looks like for you in the way of the video and the messaging, but also if there's any kind of how you're going to give or gift that song to people who are going
Yeah.
through some pretty hard stuff right now.
Well, the whole idea with Here in Spirit, of course, I think all of us have a responsibility to find some way of giving, um, with no expectations of money back or return or profit or anything. And music being something that I've always been about all my life, this is one way I feel that I can give. I've had people who have heard the song that said it really moved their spirit to realize that they, although they may be mourning the separation of someone or the loss of someone, they can use that to give them some peace of mind, that the memories and those things that can keep you going, keep you going, get you to the next day, and sometimes the next moment.
Right?
I mean, is really important, and that's my hope, is that it'll offer that, it'll give that to people. Um, I think we all need that time to find those moments of peace. My daughter had her 29th birthday, couple of last Saturday, and
Happy birthday.
yeah, we had a social distancing party, and we had to strategically set everything up in my backyard to 8 feet apart, and we played games, but we played badminton where we're away from each other and everything, and it was a wonderful time of fellowship. But you definitely felt the difference. I mean, I couldn't hug my daughter, and so we're in two different households. So it was me and my ex-wife and her husband, and my daughter's husband and his parents, and it was a small group, and my son. But we just spent that time together. I'm noticing how many people are having dinner at home. It's what when I was a kid, we had dinner at home together every night, and
Yeah.
uh, and it got to a point where mom's working, dad's working, everybody's grabbing lunch and grabbing a bite to eat on the run, and all these different football, basketball. Rarely do families come together and eat together and spend time together. So that's one of the benefits, I guess you could say, of this, that people are spending more time together. But back to your question, I'm hoping that the song will have some healing properties to it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great song, and I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here talking with me right now, but it truly is a good song, and I think that's the kind of message that we need. We need more of this. We need more of um, just again, we need to see the beautiful art fill up our news feeds. You know, every time we jump on social media, we need to hear the words that calm us and bring it back from a 10 to a 2, remembering what's important, remembering our values,
Mm.
our morals as families, as people, and then remembering that there is a greater sense than just me, myself. It's my community, and my community is vast. It's made up of a lot of people, and there's a lot of industry, and there's just a lot of um, just a variety of things that people are going through, but yet we're all going through it together.
Yeah.
And music, I think, and art are one of those things that really can express how everybody's feeling. Although we have our different things about that,
Hmm.
our own different set of issues, we're all going through this locally, nationally, globally. And I think art is the way that can really depict and give us that outlet, of how we are feeling, and to know that we're not alone in those feelings and those fears and those concerns. But to your point with the silver lining, should there be silver linings in this? Yeah, it's about being with the people you love,
Hmm.
because nothing is guaranteed, right? Except taxes and death.
And
Those are the two guarantees.
when you think about it, we see the numbers, and it's easy after a while. 1,000, 2,000, 3. We stop thinking about, or we can stop thinking about these numbers as being human people,
That's right.
beings and lives that are lost. There's somebody's grandmother, somebody's father, somebody's sister, somebody's brother, um, and these are people, and they're it's happening every day, every minute. As this
Right.
conversation and interview is going on, someone's losing their life, and we've got to keep that in our mind, and which will help us be responsible when it comes to social distancing, putting on our mask, and all of those things. But we definitely, while we're going through all of this turbulence, looking for ways of being the solution and not the problem, and
Right.
bringing peace to one another, helping where we can, because this is crazy.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a gross understatement. it's
and
it's wild.
and it brings out the best and the worst in so many different people.
Yeah, and we've seen that. We've definitely seen, you and I and people that we know, even throughout our community, we have seen the best. We're going to continue to see the best, and we're gonna hope that for those that are the worst of it, everybody gets to learn something from this, and we hope they take um, some lessons from this that will change their lives and better their lives, and
Mhm.
hopefully open their hearts. So again, the album is coming out. It's in process, so we don't have a drop date yet, but we know it's coming soon. But the Here in Spirit, we will include a link along with this video as we post that. But where can people go to hear it? How do they access that, Blair?
Well, right now, the song that's released now is in a Perfect World, and that is
Okay.
on YouTube. They can find it on YouTube. It's available now, and like I said, I'm not selling it. I'm just putting it out there. I want people to now. In a Perfect World was kind of an interesting story. If we have a moment,
We do.
awesome. Well, in a perfect world where there was I would say she was my soulmate. She was someone who I met when I had just gotten out of the army. We traveled the country when I was performing all over the country. um, and we traveled together. We were destined to get married, and it was at a time where I was still, you know, um, still growing up and hadn't yet reached the maturity that I needed to. So the relationship didn't go where it should have gone or where I would have liked it to go.
Sure.
And so I blew it. I blew the relationship. Um, some years later, many years later, Levon had called me. I was teaching at the Performing Arts Center. Uh, Teresa Brust, I don't know if you remember her, who had the gymnastics place. I was coaching there. I'd been coaching there for about 10 years, and said, well, Miriam wants to see you. And I said, well, is everything okay? She said, no, she got cancer and she's dying. She
Mm.
wants to see you. So I flew to Arizona, and we spent great time together. I met her husband, I met her daughter, and we had a wonderful time just reconnecting. And she loved Three Times a Lady, so I sang that
Mm.
song for her. And then I said, you know, I wish I was the man today that I was. I wish I was the man then that I am today. I would never left you. I would never broke your heart. I would have never. I would have handled things so much differently. So I flew back, and you know, um, about a week later, she passed away. And so I called Preston and asked him if he would help me write this song. And Preston had met Miriam before. So we proceeded to write the song In a Perfect World. And so when you look at the video of In a Perfect World, you'll see pictures of Miriam and I at different stages of our hair. I had an afro,
Right.
had a straight hair, and that had a perm. And so different stages of hair and different stages in our relationship. And then the final picture was the last week that I spent with her. Um, but the song really just talks about, you know, wish I could start again. Wish I knew now what I knew then, and I would have done
Mhm.
things different. But in a perfect world, you know, make those mistakes. In a perfect world, everything works out right and things happen the way they should. But that's only in a perfect world, and that's what the song talks about. And when I write a lot about, and I think many of us do, write about things that I can relate to, my feelings, my failings, my my successes, my hurt, my pain, my joy, my love.
Sure.
And I think that's really kind of where we're able to, as a society, draw to music, because music usually speaks to not only our personal experiences, but music speaks to other people's experiences. Many people can relate to a relationship that you should have handled differently, or a loved one that you lost, or a love that you have, you know, a great relationship. So yeah, that's what.
Well, it makes it authentic too. If you're writing about something you have absolutely no knowledge about or have never experienced, and it's just pure studio
Yeah.
content, it comes across that way. But when you're singing about joy and pain and loss and wisdom and
Mm.
lessons learned, it comes through to your audience that oh man, I know how I can feel. I know what he's saying. I've been through that. So it's all about the authenticity as well. If you're trying to connect with people.
Well, here in spirit, when we originally started writing, it was because, you know, I lost my dad in '96, my sister in 2004, my brother in 2010. Almost every 7 years, I had lost a family member. And, you know, how do you really put that in a box? You can't. The hurt, just soon as you're still going through one hurt, another one comes. And so, you know, you have to figure out a way of finding some peace in that situation. And
And some closure.
yes, exactly. That's a good point. That's a perfect word for it. Yeah, closure.
Well, again, there's just a lot of reasons to check out this song, but I want to encourage everybody to check it out if they've not already listened to it. I know you've shared it on social media, but again, we'll include the link so that people can download it and enjoy it and take from it. We look forward to the rest of the album, to its release date. Keep us posted on that.
Okay.
And again, if anybody wants any more information, Blair, if we're starting to kind of make plans for the next school year and going into the next, what's left of the year, hopefully on a higher note,
Yes.
But as far as your coaching and availability, how can people find out more information about
Uh,
those services?
they can go to Coach Blair's Voice and Performance Studio. And we're going to be doing a virtual showcase for all my students, former and current, and my seniors, doing a special feature of seniors that are going to be doing performances, and we'll be releasing that. In the meantime, if they want to take Skype lessons, now we're hoping with things loosening up a little bit, the way my studio is set up, I should be opening around the 15th of
Okay.
May, where students can begin coming in,
Okay.
um, can either book sessions online, or they can call our office and book sessions, and look forward to seeing them come in, and look forward to keeping busy. I love it. I love coaching, and I love singing and performing. And I don't know if you went to the Late Night on Main performance that we have here in Carmel.
I've seen, yeah, I've seen you perform. So you perform at a lot of different outdoor activities too.
Artist development company, my company books a lot of those events. We book Late Night on Main, we book Meet Me on Main, Midday at Midtown, and those things. And we've had the Flying Toasters, we've had Jenny DeVoe. This year we have Toy Factory, Fun Factor, and we're going to have a couple of groups. And Lord willing, and I think we all need to be in prayer and hope that we can get this all cleared away and handled so that we can have the big crowds and have people come together. 4th of July, looking forward to that. Um, so that'll be nice to see that happen.
Yeah. Well, we will continue to think positively that we can get to that point again sooner than later. And in the meantime, we appreciate everything you're doing to keep us entertained and to keep us just kind of chill, listening to some good music and remembering that there's more to life than just what we're doing here with Zoom or Skype or anything like that. There's some experiences that we could be making in person
Mhm.
with the people that we're in quarantine with. And luckily, I'm stuck with a great group of people I happen to love very much. So
It's wonderful.
thank you very much for sharing your gifts and sharing your talent, as you've always been so gracious to do. We appreciate it. Thanks for checking us out. And again, look for the link. Check out In a Perfect World by Blair Clark. We are looking forward to the release of the album and to hear in spirit when that gets produced and released. So again, thank you very much for your time. It was great seeing you.
Thank you. And I'll look forward to seeing you come over, and we'll sit on the porch when we can do that again.
I'm looking forward to it, my friend. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Bye.